question. How would we do this?
That's a really good question.
Can you see us?
He did not connect to audio.
The musical art was, I guess, a tension between isolation and connection, which I think is kind of relevant to our current circumstances.
I'm gonna share my screen.
Oh, technology.
Whoa!
Concerns are too light for Hades. I spend a lot of my time thinking I'm worrying too much and a lot of my time thinking I'm worrying too little.
This project means a lot to me.
I was craving for more, I was intrigued to find out what happens.
Vandaag zou er eigenlijk een voorstelling zijn van Mephistopheles. Maar door corona kon dat niet doorgaan.
Faust Working Title is een voorstelling die in heel korte tijd is samengesteld. En met behulp van iedereen die er aan mee heeft gewerkt is eigenlijk de inhoud bepaald. Het is iets wat je kan zien zonder te begrijpen. Het is een collagevoorstelling en tegelijkertijd heeft het toch ook echt zijn eigen identiteit gekregen in de afgelopen 3 maanden. Het materiaal van de voorstelling bestond nog niet toen we begonnen met werken. Dus dat betekent dat je eerst een andere rol aanneemt dan die van regisseur of van dirigent of van decorontwerper. Namelijk in de eerste plaats de rol van maker. En het zorgt ervoor dat er hele spannende gesprekken plaatsvinden tussen iedereen in het team. Dus niet alleen Manoy en ik. En ik denk, omdat we onze rol blijven bevragen, dat het verhaal wat we vertellen niet maar van één persoon komt. En dat is voor ons heel belangrijk.
We wilden heel graag met deze voorstelling een heel breed scala aan muziek laten horen, omdat er heel veel verschillende lichamen op het podium aanwezig zijn. En we in de archieven van elk persoon zijn gaan graven. En in die archieven zit eigenlijk veel meer dan alleen muziek die met Faust heeft te maken. Dus we hebben stukken gekozen uit de Faust-operatische traditie, maar ook andere stukken uit de klassieke westerse muziek. Stukken die helemaal niet klassiek zijn en zelfs muziek die eigenlijk niet westers is. Omdat er best wel veel beperkingen op het project lagen, qua tijd en qua mogelijkheden, wilden we toch heel veel stemmen laten horen. En een fantastische manier om dat te doen bleek om aan componisten uit de hele wereld te vragen of zij wilden reageren op de muziek die wij hadden gekozen, door daar zelf een laag aan toe te voegen. Soms hebben we componisten gevraagd om heel dicht bij het origineel te blijven, maar daar een nieuwe wereld omheen te scheppen. En andere componisten hebben eigenlijk de muziek compleet uit elkaar getrokken en misschien wel niet meer echt in elkaar gezet. Je voelt denk ik aan alles dat het echt in 2020 is ontstaan. En het is echt een reactie op wat er in de wereld gaande is. En dat zie je niet allemaal letterlijk terug in de voorstelling, maar het is zo voelbaar dat dit gewoon niet al 4 jaar geleden of langer geleden had bedacht kunnen worden. Dat is iets wat het ook gewoon super intens en bijzonder gaat maken.
And so your life's been a success, and you have pleasure in excess. Don't worry, it will all end soon. The crack of doom is coming soon, and so your future's looking bright, and you've reached the giddy heights. Don't worry, 'twill soon end, it is all shallow and pretend. The crack of doom is coming soon. The crack of doom is coming soon. Ha! 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 Ha!
I think it's about to.
Because I'm getting all sorts of previews and things.
Apparently only previews on YouTube.
Yes, because we're not live yet on YouTube. But we're about to go live. Roger, if you're ready, I think we can go live. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to our last session of the day, hosted at Deutsche Oper am Rhein in Düsseldorf. Just a reminder, please name yourselves clearly so we know who's in the room. And Nicholas, Alexandra, I pass this on to you.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the Opera House in Düsseldorf at the Deutsche Oper am Rhein. I'm Alexandra Stempler-Brown, the Managing Director. And I'm very, very happy to welcoming everybody on Zoom, all the Opera Europe members, and also all our viewers on YouTube. We have a very exciting discussion and session ahead of us. And but first of all, I would like to apologize and say hello from Christoph Meyer, our Generalintendant, who unfortunately cannot be with us today at the session because he's not feeling too well and has to stay at home in bed, ordered by his doctor, but it's not COVID. So he will recover very quickly, we're sure, and we're looking forward to seeing him again. So he was very excited also that we can host here one session of the conference and on a very exciting topic that has been with us here as well, especially during the lockdown. We are sitting here at distance with the panel, and also have two panel members via Zoom. So you can see it's pretty quiet here in the Opera House. We unfortunately don't have performances on right now. We are in a lockdown since the beginning of November. And originally the plan was that we can attend a performance of the Kaiser von Atlantis live here in the Opera House at 7:30, and others watch it online and then have a discussion about this topic live or online afterwards. But then we had to change our plans, and so we're sitting here now and talking about the differences and the tension between what we think about streaming opera and the relationship to live performance. Before I introduce you to the panel, I'd like to tell you what the order is going to be. We are going to have a brief introduction from Jens Breda, who is going to tell you more about our work on the digital front at the Deutsche Oper am Rhein, and especially talk about a new project that we have just launched this autumn. It's called the Digital Foyer. It's very big scale project that we have just launched. And then we'll start a discussion which should last for about 45 minutes. So there will be enough time for all of you to join in on Zoom and join in on the discussion and with your thoughts and views. So first of all, welcome to the panel. Welcome, I want to say hello to Ilaria Lanzino, the director of this Kaiser von Atlantis, our new production that had its premiere in September. And Ilaria is with us also full-time as an assistant director and has worked already on some big and major productions at the opera. For example, our new Ring production that we completed last season, and is currently working on a new production in Dortmund and has won a very prestigious Opera Director Award last year. So we're very proud and happy to have her in our team. And then I would like to welcome Kimberly Böttger-Soller. She is in our ensemble, and she is singing in the Kaiser von Atlantis, the Trommler, the drummer, and we're also very happy to have her also same time since 3 years. She is with us in the ensemble, and we are also very lucky to have such a strong ensemble at the Deutsche Oper am Rhein, which can now perform all these new productions that we have put up during this new season that we had to come up with due to Corona. And then live, we have here also Jens Breder, our head of marketing and communications. He has been working also with us since 3 years and is also the spearhead of this big digital project that we have launched, and will also be on the chat line with you. So please also post your questions if you want. And Jens has worked before at the Komische Oper Berlin, in Bern, in Switzerland, and also in Hamburg at Kampnagel. So many, many years of experience with audience development and marketing. And then we have online Luke O'Shaughnessy from the Opera Vision platform. Hello, Luke. I think everyone knows you very well. You have been our guide through the years of this established platform that we have now through Opera Europa. And I'm not sure if Oliver Becker is already live with us. Yes, he is. He is sitting in Berlin and will be taking part in our discussion via Zoom. He has been filming our production of the Kaiser von Atlantis, which is on stream now since 2 weeks on the Opera Vision platform. And we will talk more about this production later. So now I want to pass you on to Jens Breder, who is going to tell you a little bit about where we are at Deutsche Oper am Rhein with our digital transformation and digital ideas that we currently have also enhanced during Corona, but that have been already in development before the lockdown. Please, Jens.
Sorry, the microphone's not coming through.
You're muted.
It seems that the camera you're speaking to is muted.
Okay.
Now it's good.
Yeah, no, it's good. Okay.
Yes.
Now you're good.
Okay. Anyway, I start again. So this year, digital transformation and communication and marketing, of course, didn't start. It started long times ago, but it increased its speed enormous. So since a couple of years, our schedule of duties changes. Now it's, I think I can say it's less text and it's more picture. It's less printing than filming and less announcing something than inviting the audience. In pandemic, we couldn't adapt well-known formats like making of videos we used before because there was no producing, no rehearsing at all in the opera house, and we weren't even allowed to enter the house. So we couldn't do anything which was trained and common before. And like all other houses, I suppose we started lots of experiments, and yes, we also showed little clips on Instagram showing dancers dancing in their kitchen or singers singing in the bathroom. And we had, of course, a quiet. I have to admit that I wouldn't do all of this again, but it was a very interesting experience. However, I think this is what we call learning, and we have now, but we have found some formats and tried out them, which are, I think, really good fun and quite successful. For example, Ilaria, who is here as well today, her kitchen became a classroom from where she taught us Italian by explaining the special jargon of Italian operas. with a lot of humor and temper, and her espresso machine. And we had also something like a digital talk about Wagner's Circle. We scheduled the Circle originally at Easter. Of course, we couldn't perform it, and at these dates, we invited the audience to digital talks, and they were joined by some singers like Linda Watson and Michael Vanius. And this was very successful. We had, for example, for the Rheingold talk, about more than 4,000 views all around the world, and had a press coverage in whole Germany with this. But however, our job is not only to make these funny things, but to develop a real communication strategy, a real digitally strategy based on this experience. And therefore, we are very happy that we started this year a project named the Digital Foyer. Shall I continue directly? Okay. This project started this year, will last until 2023. It's financed by the German Federal Cultural Foundation, and the budget of this project is nearly €1 million for us. We do it together, and this is, I think, very interesting, with a fringe theater, with the FFT in Düsseldorf. I think Lena will give you the link in Zoom. And this theater is specialized in independent performing arts. And we also have a digital partner, the Hochschule Düsseldorf, so the university here, the apartment Mirevi. It's the apartment for mixed reality and visualization. And they will work all the 4 years with us as a digital partner, developing a strategy, programming, and things like that. All in all, this project, the German Federal Cultural Foundation founded, spends 15 million euro for the digital program. And beside us, the Komische Oper in Berlin and the theater in Karlsruhe are also members of this project and doing research and development. The Digital Foyer is for us an audience-centric project. It's a project for communication and feedback. We are interested how we could use our foyer, how we could use our building to communicate with people, to invite them, and to get in dialogue with them. All we do here and all we are developing will be open source. That's also very important, and could be used after by other institutions. One word to the partnership with the FFT, so with the Forum Freies Theater. They have a lot of experience with something they call the Theater of Digital Natives. So they are doing lots of special project. It makes sense to have a look on their website now. It's a very interesting program. And we have our experience with digital marketing, digital sales, tools for audience development, and this all comes together in this project. And we are trying to develop new tools and prototypes. Yeah, what happened so far? We started in summer. We have a project manager, Lena Tomdik, so she is here and having a look on the chat now. We had a kickoff event, and we'll start a first augmented reality project for exhibition here in Düsseldorf together with a ballet. Probably you can see then little tiny dances on your hand through your smartphone gadget. So this is what we do, and we are quite happy to maybe in a year or in 2 years show you the first developments and prototypes and things we do here.
Thank you, Jens. Yes, before we launch into our discussion, thank you for outlining our broad range of activities. And as we said before, I think we were extremely lucky that we launched these big projects, like also being a member of the Opera Vision platform a few years ago, but also now launching the digital project together with our partners here in Düsseldorf, because we were already thinking a lot this way, and therefore when Corona hit us, as many other companies, we had already some things prepared and something up our sleeve. And it's basically also thinking about technical infrastructure and getting that sorted first. And so therefore, I think we can draw from that slowly but surely. And it's a daily learning that we do here as a team. And I think for us as an organization, and that was also part of the discussion already at the conference, we are thinking very broad about the digital transformation of the organization. So it's not just about audience development, marketing and communication in our foyer, but we're thinking much more holistic about this project and focusing on it for the next 3 years. So let's get started now with our discussion on the topic, the relationship between the live and the digital experience of opera. And we want to use streaming on Opera Vision as a good example of how we can experience opera online, but also particularly talk about our production of Kaiser von Atlantis. And we were thinking of having some overarching topics. So we want to talk about the technical issues around a production and technical issues about filming a production. Then we want to focus on the artists. How do they feel about this development? And what are the differences and similarities? Then we want to focus a lot about the audience and see what do they make of all of this. And finally, we want to also look into the future and see how our audiences react and how they will maybe react even after COVID, maybe differently, and will there be changes for our offering? So I would like to start with Ilaria. Ilaria,
Hi,
you are the director of the Kaiser von Atlantis, and maybe to outline a little bit for us how it was for you as a director to work on this production that was instantly stopped during a rehearsal process this springtime when COVID started with the measures to lock down in the middle of March, and then starting again in autumn or over summertime with rehearsals. And how did these restrictions that apply in Germany, maybe for our non-German viewers, we do have quite strong health and safety measures in terms of distance. So we have to keep 6 to 3 meters distance between our artists on stage, and therefore had to also choose a lot of pieces that didn't have big cast or a lot of big orchestra because we couldn't fit them physically on stage. So maybe Ilaria, you can talk us a little bit through that process of how you approached it with your original concept and then suddenly Corona hitting your production.
Yes, Alexandra. So, as you said, we started rehearsing in March. This was really exactly 3 weeks before we have been locked down. So we had 2 or 3 weeks rehearsing. And of course, it was a completely other way of rehearsing back then. Today, I've listened to Luke Stoker's interview that has been released, broadcasted in the Opera Vision about the Kaiser von Atlantis. And he talked about this period of March. And out of blue, I realized, oh my God, that's true. We rehearsed it and it was completely different, of course. You talked about the 6 meters distance. Now it became a little bit, during November, a little bit loosened up. We changed to 3 because some studies came that we can reduce this distance. But back then, the Kaiser von Atlantis was the very first production that has been showed for the reopening of the theaters, and these rules were very strict. And you can imagine 6 meters. 6 meters means 4 times myself. So it's really a big distance. And I had, if I am frank, I had to rethink to 80% completely the staging. Fortunately, the aesthetic that we have chosen was quite abstract. So this distance actually didn't ruined completely our ideas. If I had a table and 2 chairs, of course, maybe it would be another kind of aesthetic in which a realistic play is more asked. But I felt that we could do this challenge, but I have to admit that I, of course, had to rethink a lot about it, and 6 meters it's really a very big distance. So there was the risk that it was too static, and I concentrated a lot on moving the people in the place that my stage designer told me they have to be there. So we made a kreuz. This is the place where you have to stay, and so we are safe. This was the work that I had to do to really motivate them to play a lot on the place and interact from the distance. So I have to rethink everything.
That's quite a challenge, and maybe to lead on to the next step, because then the idea was that the Deutsche Oper am Rhein is contributing production this year to the Opera Vision platform, and originally we thought of streaming Macbeth, rather large-scale production, but then had to rethink that plan as well, and decided to do your piece. And when you learned that we are going to do a streaming of it and filming it in autumn, did you then rethink again? Or is it that you thought, no, that's my concept and that's it?
Well, as I said, I had already to rethink and make some compromising before all COVID, and actually this is the way it should have done because of these conditions. So there was really no place in the direction of the singers with this enormous distance to do it differently. So I couldn't actually take care about the camera in the direction of the singers. What we took care a little bit was in the costume and in some details of the props that we didn't think, oh yeah, there is the distance to the public, so nobody's gonna notice this detail or something. No, we thought everything has to be perfect in details, in every detail. For instance, also the mask of the trommler. In the beginning, we realized a mask that would have worked perfectly with the camera, and then realized that didn't work well on stage. So we need to find a balance that works in both cases. With the Ausstattung, with the stage and costume design, we took care about stuff, about moving the singers and about the figures. We couldn't take care of it because we had this very big challenge of the 6 meters. And so this was our main concern, primarily.
That's interesting. Now, leading on to Kimberly, who is in the cast. I saw you nodding a lot when Ilaria just said that you started with something different and then had to reset it. And so how was it for you, that development? And I would also like to ask you, when you know that you're on stage and you're performing live to an audience, is there any difference from when you then know, well, there's also cameras around and microphones, and you're going to be recorded for a stream that's up for 6 months, which can be seen at any time of the day? So how was that development for you?
Well, I answer your first question. When we started to rehearse Kaiser, I had all 6 little real children with me on stage. And this was very different when suddenly I had some baby puppets to fulfill my new role. So I really tried to, after the summer, I really tried to be open for what is coming new and forget about what was before. So this was I just tried to be open. And well, for me, it was a great honor, of course, to be suddenly on this big platform. And I'm quite sure it put some tension on me during the performances, but I really tried to forget about it because it would not help my acting or singing or anything. Since we did not have any planned interaction with the camera, I tried to be there for the audience we had. So I'm really happy, and I think it is very important when you film an opera, there should be some real audience too, because they give back some energy which the camera does not. So I tried to focus on the people who were in the room and tried to forget about the camera.
That's an interesting point when you think about streaming and producing a streamed opera, that it is for you as a performer, as an artist, obviously very important to get the energy also of an alive audience that's
Yes.
there and that you can play with and share it with. That's quite different from film productions that have also been done where it's purely filmed for a camera. So that's also, I guess, a big difference, a different approach. I would like to pass on now to Oliver Becker. I hope he can hear us and see us, because Oliver Becker and his team have been here now 3 times in Düsseldorf, and the Kaiser von Atlantis is his 3rd production he has been doing for us. And I would like to ask him how he prepares for filming an opera, and what skills and equipment he uses and are required to actually film successfully and produce a successful streamed production. Is Oliver there?
Yeah, he's there. Hello. Nice to see you all and to hear you all. And yes, we did the Kaiser of Atlantis, and this was a production. My team and me, we liked it very much. The staging and lighting and the music, of course. And what is a bit strange in this time, when we did it, there were even a few people in the audience. It was a time where there were people allowed, but only a few. And we did, as a technical team for Bernhard Fleischer Moving Images, last week a production in Hanover. I see Laura Berman is also with us. And this production was Carmen, and nobody was in the hall, no audience at all, and only the performing. And I must say, in my career doing this, this was a really strange experience, and it went very well also in Hanover. But you really feel you need the audience, and I was thinking about the artists, the singers, and the musicians. For them, it even must be more strange than for us. So it's a really interesting time, of course, we are going through. And of course, to bring opera to the internet, into a streaming platform like Opera Vision, it's becoming more and more important. And it's becoming more and more also a thing where I experience more opera houses now start even now to think about it. But going to the technical issues, of course, we are a small team because the budget is also always tight. We don't have a big television company behind us. And so we have to operate with a very smart production setup. And of course, the first step is we need a video about the staging, and the video director is preparing the production, and make a script for the cameraman. And it's always an adaptation, of course. You don't see everything at the same time, like the normal audience visitor. And so we have to make a choice. And this is the main thing we have to prepare, that the choice is still compatible with the concept of the director. And what was in Düsseldorf, that's why we had a good time there, is that with Ilaria, we have find a real artistic partner for the streaming of the opera. And this is not the normal case. Because often we experience that the directors are not so interested in the streaming, even when they see it and they are not so satisfied. But in this case, I think it was a very good way with Ilaria that she was really in contact with us and also with the director. And because we have to know things, the opera director must tell us on which things we really have to focus when we do the script. And this was very important in this case. And the other thing, of course, is always sound. And interesting was normally we work with the microports. So we have on each singer directly the microphones. And this, of course, makes the best results. But of course, of Corona, it was too difficult to get too close to the singers for our sound engineers. And so we have to put microphones all over the stage and make a good mix after, which worked very well, I guess. And to bring this together, a perfect sound and a perfect picture, I must say, from each production to each production I'm doing it. It's not no routine. It stays always very demanding because each production is so different. And the next point, which is also always a big topic for us, is the lighting. Because the lighting is always not for the cameras. It's made for the audience eyes, and this is quite different for the cameras. So you have to find a way that the lighting is not something completely new, but works for the cameras. So many steps to do. And I think, Alexandra, you have some more questions to me.
Yes. Indeed, I will, because you stepped straight into the topic of the technical requirements and also a learning process that is also a learning for us. And I think you mentioned already that it is different to film depending on your lighting, but also costume design, as Ilaria and you mentioned, and also makeup, and it is much more detailed and much more precise, because what you do, of course, you focus in on faces and on expressions that normally an opera goer doesn't see when they sit in the 15th row in your auditorium. So it's a much more direct and intimate way of conveying your emotions. And maybe I want to also ask Luke on, because Oliver talked about what makes a production successful and what are the key technical ingredients, also working together with the director of the piece. So Luke, what do you think from all your experience over the years with so many stream productions there have been on and are on? What are the successes that what works really well?
Hi, everyone. What a pity not to be there with you. Anyway, it's streaming time, so here we are. Can you hear me okay? Good. Look, Oliver's mentioned something quite key, and that's the relationship of trust. It's rare, as he says, that trust extends between the audiovisual producer and the director of the show, and it's wonderful when that happens. Of course, the small Opera Vision team does spend a lot of time watching streams. What a tough job, and we certainly that there are some simple things. We started to get a sense that if you're probably going to do a stream on Opera Vision, if it's a question of capturing main stage work, be working with 5 cameras. That sort of variety of image you can get with 5 cameras works. And over the years, we've kind of started to notice some sort of house styles. The opera house that launched our platform is the Teatro Real, and they have wonderful, daring visual multi-camera directors who love to linger on singers in very, very close-ups. And I think the Operavision team, or at least those of us who've been with it for a while, can probably recognize a Teatro Real style. So I think that's there are elements that you get from this close relationship of trust. I'm glad Oliver mentioned radio mics. As part of the Operavision adventure, we've set up at Opera Europa an audiovisual and digital media forum. And one of the productions that Oliver was involved with, not in Germany, but in Oslo, the teams there, the sound teams there, Ewan Peterson, came and spoke to us at the last time we could all be together live for an audiovisual meeting, and just showed us the difference between a scene that Oliver's team had filmed of the Billy Budd in Oslo, which was set on a submarine in a very close and intimate scene. And he showed us the difference just by showing two clips, one with a radio mic and where the microphone was completely dissimulated in a rather completely bare-chested Billy Budd, somewhere back there, and how that came across without the use of the radio mic. And as Oliver said, and you guys know, it perhaps adds a little bit of extra cost, a little bit of extra layer of complexity. But if we're just looking at those technical questions, I think it's worth the investment, or at least having the sound engineer who knows where to use those shotgun microphones to get the sound right.
Now, Luke, on Operavision, there is a big, broad range of operas, large scale, but it's an eclectic mix of opera titles that are like the big titles that everybody knows, but also maybe like Kaiser von Atlantis, not many have heard of this opera before, and therefore it was of particular interest to us to film it and to have it on Operavision as part of this big platform, because it's also showing it to a wider audience, which is a rarity. And but what do you think in terms of scale of work? So what works better on streaming? Is it the large scale work with 100 people on stage? Is that something that comes across really great and you can feel more emotions, or is it more a production like with Kaiser von Atlantis with just a few performers on stage where you can really concentrate on each character to a greater extent? What do you think works really well?
I think we have to consider the audience, and our audience that's out there is Operavision is meant to be for indeed those who love opera, and for those who are perhaps just a bit curious about finding out a bit more. And when you can't go to a theatre, then Operavision is the destination for now. So I think from a programming point of view, I think we have to, as you all do when you think about your seasons, make sure that Operavision reflects the diversity of what's going on now. For people, if anyone is out there who doesn't know, we rely on core partners. So we rely on a group of about 30 opera houses, including you, fine lot in Deutsche Oper am Rhein, to make a commitment to give us a stream every year. And that means that we can have a discussion with you about what that title should be. So that's that's absolutely the key. We do make the platform open to other opera houses who have a burning desire and a really strong reason to show the work. Of course, we've already cited, Oliver's already cited Laura's work in Hanover last week, this new Carmen needed to be shown because it was very much of the moment, a new response to Carmen, which we were delighted to stream live last week. So there is that. We're not looking to be a library where the streams get dusty for years and years. You mentioned the 6-month thing. We want to be a little window for a certain time of what's happening on those interesting stages of European opera houses now.
And I think what Opera Vision does really well is also all the background information that you can watch in relation to the new productions. And here I have a question for Jens, who has been also in the conceptual team of our work that we have also contributed. In addition to the streaming of the opera, we have done backstage clips and interviews. What do you think, Jens? Is that something that is the new way of audience development? Is it something that is the future, or is it a part that is just part of a stream, or how do you see that in relationship to our other work that we do in terms of audience development?
I think this is a very important part of our work, indeed. So actually we have two main target groups when we do streaming. This is people who are interested in opera and are interested in varieties or in special special performances, and they are also very interested in getting an impression on who is the director, who are the singers, who is the conductor, what do they think, how was the stage design set up, and things like that. And then we have, of course, people who are just strolling in. They come there coincidentally, and they just say, okay, let's have a look at opera, and oh, okay, it's interesting. Let's have a look how it's made. And for them, it's also very, very important. So let's say that this kind of making of videos, of this background videos, are kind of a new program we do of a new way of communication. I think it's very important. We see it when we do it in our regular repertoire and post our making of videos on the social media, that they are seen by as much people as see our teasers or look at our photo galleries. So people really like these formats.
Great. I've got a question for Kimberly. Have you watched yourself on the stream yet? Have you watched your performance?
Yes, I have. I must say I waited a bit because, well, I could really enjoy my colleagues, their very well done work, but with myself, I evaluate every step on stage and every singing. So it is not, when I watch myself, I cannot really enjoy. But still, I enjoyed the whole show. But one thing at home, I do not have those technical means to enjoy opera. I have a laptop and I put it on my hi-fi, and then I watch opera for my professional interest, but not to enjoy or, yes, can be compatible to a live performance. So out of professional interest, yes.
No, that's an interesting point, because when we think about our online audience, we have to think about their different means on how they are perceiving and how they are consuming our streaming. And that can be on your iPhone, that can be on your iPad, or it can be on a big flat screen with a Dolby surround system, or you can even do it through headphones. And so therefore, there is a big technical difference on the back end as well. And maybe a question to Oliver Becker. Do you consider this, that actually you can watch an opera on a tiny screen like this when you are sitting on the train driving across the country, or you sit at home comfortably in your living room with your big big dimensional screen? What are your thoughts as a producer of a streaming on all these differences?
Yeah, of course, it's what we wish, that the people make a big home video event out of it with a big flat screen and a perfect sound. and that they stay, that they watch from the very beginning until the very end. And I must say, in the Opera Vision viewers, they are very disciplined, and they do it. A big percentage of them are doing it under very good conditions. And the best things I've heard out of the comments is that they are in the US, for example, they are like group of friends who meet at one of them, and they are 10 or 12 people, and they are watching it like a watch party at home. And I think this is a very perfect way to enjoy streaming somewhere in the Midwest. But the other reality is, of course, we have to do it for each medium, for the smartphone, for the iPad users, for the people with a small computer screen, and it must work on all those mediums. And also that really the people do something else and they are on the move. And the biggest compliments I get is that really people are writing in the comments. I just walked in and I start to watch and I wanted to do something else, but I'm so stuck with the production, I will stay. This some people are writing. And I think when the visual and the artistic quality is well done, then even it works on the smallest medium. And what is funny, we did a production for the Gilmore Festival in the US, piano recital of Pierre-Laurent Aymar in a Berlin studio. And the journalist from the New York Times, he wrote about this streaming, and he wrote about it that he was walking out his dog by watching the stream. And he wrote not so much about the streaming itself, but about the strange Corona thing that you bring the culture into your daily life. And I think this is also, at the end, a good thing, that you have this on all these different screens.
Well, that's interesting when you say that somebody's out walking a dog and actually listening to a concert at the same time. What do you think about that, Ilaria? Does it not make you cringe when you think about you're putting on a big production and directing a big piece, and then it's reduced to a small format? And what about your concentration and your involvement and the magic that is actually seeing something live? Do you think that we can replicate that at home?
Well, on the one hand, I have been very grateful also as a spectator to been able to watch productions, because for instance I should have gone to Finland to watch COVID Fan Tutte, and it gave me so much laughter, and I watched it from my home. So I think it is an incredible democratic stuff that we can show some performances to the persons at home. On the other hand, I think that this commitment that we have in the audience hall, this ritual and collective energy in the darkness and watching something together is something not reproducible. So it feels strange to me to listen to someone that watched an opera performance while walking the dog, because the thing that really fascinated me about opera, and why I'm also very often there as a spectator, is actually this live energy. But I have to say, I misses it more with tragical material, but with comedy it works very well. The online format, because with tragedy, I have to say I have never wept during an online format, but I laughed a lot, because to weep I need the energy of the live orchestra and an overwhelming feeling of everything live coming into me, and then brings me really to tears. And I have a sort of detachment towards these emotions while I am in my living room. But laugh is something that I did a lot of time also in Schmid of Ghent. Oh my God, amazing production. Really thank you, Opera Vision, for giving us the possibility to watch these productions. Great stuff. But I didn't cry with tragical stuff.
Mm-hmm. Jens, how long do you stick to it if you watch something online and you think, well, I'm going to sit down now watching an opera? How long is it that you last?
I think I should say till the end, but it's not true. No, I'm really not a big fan of online performances, of digital performances, but maybe I'm not the target group. I really like to go to theater and enjoy the company also of people and enjoy the live thing.
Maybe a question to Luke. You will probably, or for sure, have some statistics on how long people stick with it. Can you share some facts with us on what your experience is?
I just want to leave Oliver's lovely anecdote about and the idea he's got about people watching right from the beginning right to the end. So you're all super convinced. It's true, Oliver, and it's a nice anecdote. I have more of those about being beamed into retirement homes. Also in the Midwest. Maybe it was the same story, but that there are people who get together and watch these things. And of course, we, through our live chats that we do, we keep the conversation going right through from the beginning to the end. But you wouldn't believe me if I told you everyone watching all of them, because Jens has already blown that one for us. But look, we are cautious of these stats because it's difficult to say. What we do is we share with all our partners sorry, distraction there. We share with all the people who stream on our platform a number of statistics, the key one being the number of views. A view for us is someone who's engaged for at least 30 seconds. So it's not someone who just flitted over, they've started watching. We're particularly interested in where people are watching, whether your opera house and this show has gone beyond the confines of your, beyond the borders of your country, and whether it's gone further. That's an interesting matrix that we share. We don't regularly share the average viewing time because people like Ilaria probably need to block their ears at this time, because it's not the same concentration span for a percentage of the audience who will just dip in. Some, the Komisher tell us, they love Opera Vision because they stream the first night often, as Oliver knows, and for them it's wonderful marketing. People get excited about seeing a bit of it, and then in their case they have some anecdotal figures about people being inspired to buy to buy tickets. I've avoided it long enough. The average viewing time right across Opera Vision for a full-length stream is between 12 and 15 minutes, which is a long time on the internet if you think about your day.
Well, that's already Kimberly's first big aria included then. That's hooray! She's been seen on average. So that's great. Look, I've got another question. When you were talking about all the viewers from across the world, and Opera Vision is a fantastic platform because it's so worldwide active. Do you get feedback from the audience, and how is the feedback in comparison to the region where people watch it, in comparison to if the audience is new audience to opera, or if it's like opera enthusiasts, if it's opera professionals? Do you see a difference? Because I'm sure you get lots of comments and feedback on your platforms, and I would be interested because I was always thinking opera streaming is something one way, but then thinking about it again, of course, you get feedback or we get feedback through the comments box, but what does it help us to understand or do it better or change things? What is it you hear most from people?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. The Small Opera Vision team works hard to present our platform in 3 languages, so English, French, and German. We do get comments in other languages, but I think the comments are majority in English, and very often from viewers in the States who don't hold back in sharing their views. Look, for us, I think they're 2 different things. Whenever we do a live stream, or even if it's a recently recorded show that we're sharing for the first time, we do this live interaction because we made the choice to go with YouTube as a streaming platform, because that's where everybody is. There, the discussion can really get quite detailed about productions that people have seen in the past and their favorite singers, and can get quite nerdy. We also have kind of passing comments with through other social media that can relate to questions about how things are made, what the director was trying to say. And of course, there are people, as in normal audiences, who have very strong views about the production and feel that they have a direct line to what the composer would have wanted, and they tell us. So in terms of learning outcome, look, we share with our partners that those feedbacks, and it's interesting. I should probably push our partners a bit harder about what they're doing about that, and how they're reacting. But for us, as we're pushing a lot of content out, those opportunities for to have the feedback are really valuable.
And I think also for us as producers and as houses that are now partly shut and are not direct in touch with our audiences, that we're so delightful if we get now feedback via letters, via emails, via chat rooms, that people appreciate our work if it's shown online or if it's shown to a limited amount of audience. I think under these circumstances right now, feedback is for us also like an important string that keeps us going and motivates us, because it is really hard to just rehearse what we do right now and then not being able to show an opening night after a long rehearsal process. And even if it's feedback online, then when you watch Kaiser von Atlantis and then you go into the chat box below, I love it right now because I thought, yeah, there's a reaction here. And so that's quite interesting. Ilaria, what do you think about the concept of the streaming of an opera production, which is basically replicating an art form into another medium? Can you envisage that in the next stage, also maybe after Corona, when you are thinking about artistic concepts of productions, that you're including more digital means, digital ways of producing your next production? Is it that you're thinking about multiple forms, that is not something just on stage, but also something where you can now, with modern technology, involve audiences, make them part of it, and mix it of a whole big possibilities that we have right now?
I think that the medium that we have are very interesting, and I would definitely get more in touch with this possibility that we have now opened. But on the other hand, I think that first of all, the art has to be on the first place. I mean, by that we shouldn't force it if it doesn't fit it in any way possible to make digital fitting inside. I think it has to be a very well thought combination of these two aspects, and not just in order to show, yeah, now I want to do a production and to show that I'm modern and digital, then forgetting about the dramaturgy and the artistical consequences about these choices. It shouldn't be a must, it should be a possibility, like the Maler, how is Maler in English? The painter has many colors and decided the best for the painting, but not is forced to use just have a blue picture. You know what I mean? So it's a possibility, and it has to fit.
And how do you see the future, Kimberly?
Well, it would be very interesting to have body cameras as a singer, to have this personal view on your colleague, for example, so that you don't have only the view of the audience. I think I would find it very, very special and interesting, even for shows which are put on the internet afterwards. And I also, when I watch a production and I have some glimpses from the orchestra into the audience, it makes me goosebumps. I don't know how to say, but then you really see everything and the audience can have perspectives which they never get when they sit in the audience. So I'm looking forward to the productions which include this medium more, but of course I think Ilaria is right. We shouldn't force it. It should fit to the piece we make.
And Jens, looking into the future, when we can play full scale again here in Düsseldorf and open up again and audiences will flock back into the building, what do you think will have changed? Will there have anything changed, especially with our digital offer that we develop more and more? Is there a danger that people will stick at home and rather watch a free streaming of an opera and say, oh, can't be bothered going out, getting dressed, enjoying a live experience because it's when I have my big screen at home, it's as good? Do you think we are developing that way?
If you had asked me this before the pandemic, I would have said no. There's no danger because we know that Opera Vision, for example, is not a concurrency for us, but it's something we can use for marketing. When we had Xerxes online, it was very good for our performances here in the house. So the people came and it was sold out, all performances. But now, after the pandemic experience, actually, I don't know. I think no one knows how audience will react and what they choose. And I think it depends it depends which channel you use for streaming. So if you go back by streaming into a cinema, for example, where you have a brilliant sound, you have a brilliant screen, and you have the experience to have the performance together with other people, then probably it could be something which is getting in concurrency with theater performance. I don't know. I think we all have to wait what happens after the pandemic ends, and I think we have to change a lot of things then. Yeah.
So before we open up the discussion to everybody on Zoom, I've got one more question to Oliver in Berlin. Oliver, what is your hope and what is your plan for the future? How can we keep the quality, how we can enhance the quality of production for streaming? And what should we take home with us as the top tips from the producer? What do you think should and can happen in the next few years?
Yeah. Of course, when the video crew gets in, the staging and the full production was happening. So we have the workflow in the Opera House, which is where you have a big crew for the lighting, for everything, the singers and so on. And we are coming at a very late moment into this workflow. And I think because that's the reason we are sitting here, the streaming, the video, it has an importance. Also, it's maybe growing this importance for the future. And what is my tip to the opera houses is to integrate us, the video crew, the streaming crew, a bit into the workflow, to connect us with the directors, to connect us with the people for the lighting, and even, of course, with the conductor. And because this will give better preparation, better visual results. And that is also my idea for the future. It is not a concurrence for what is happening, the magic. The real magic, it's only happening when you sit in a hall. That is for sure. But the streaming medium also gives a lot of people access to watch the productions. And of course, under the conditions we are now, and we will see how the development is, it will not stepping back. It will become more important. And for me as a video producer, of course, to get a bit more earlier integrated into the production when the streaming is planned, this would be a big help to increase the quality.
Thank you very much. That's a very good and useful advice for all of us. So I would like to open it up, and I think Jens, you have some questions. Do you have any comments in the chat box?
Nothing in the chat, but
okay.
There.
Then if you want to ask something, the panel, or make a comment, then please unmute yourself now. Thank you. Audrey, do we have to switch here anything so we can see people popping up?
Birgitta, please unmute yourself.
Are people raising hands or waving?
Yes, Birgitta Spendens there, ready to speak.
Okay.
Oh
Yes,
gosh, I had
down.
to. Yeah, I had to hold down my microphone. I'm sorry, technical. Thank you, Alexandra, Jens, Oliver, everybody for a very interesting presentation. First of all, and all Luke also with the details. Actually, what is needed to make a good production. And I think Oliver, I turn to you because you were in the Carmen thing. Do you feel, or a question to all of you, do you feel that we would go more in the direction of making special productions for the instrument of the digital channel? Because we are still in the midst of streaming and sort of try to make our stage productions in a digital version. But I'm curious about the possibility of actually making pure digital productions. And I'm also into that because I think that from that point of view, we could commission pieces specially made today, especially made for the digital tool. Good or bad idea?
First thing, I hope that we really coming the earlier, the sooner, the better, back to the halls with all the visitors. So as I said, to have a production without any audience, which was made for the audience, was not a good feeling for everybody, I guess. But of course, thinking of the future and thinking of an opera house as also a lab for new formats, for new ideas, this would be a great experiment to do opera for streaming. And there was the idea of things like body cameras. So the whole look and feel then must be really something else which you don't experience when you sit on your place in the hall. So of course I'm open for this, but I think this is not at the end the real idea, the actual idea of opera vision doing things like this. It's something which each opera house can decide for itself.
No, I would only see it as a compliment, not something that is going to take out the real stuff on stage. But I also had the experience when we have now been streaming also concerts, and maybe especially for the young singers who are not trained actually to deliver to the camera. And I think your singer also, Alexandra, she talked about it because you said that you are actually you were responding to the audience, the few audiences that were in the auditorium. And I figure when we did concerts now that we need to train also the new generation of singers actually to correspondence with the camera in another way than we actually do when we are live on stage. So that is also an interesting part of the education, I think.
I'd be happy to come in on the education front. Yes, the core business of opera vision is being the window on what's happening on your stage here, but not only. This summer in August, we streamed a whole series of very, very short made for digital operas, which was the initiative of some group of young artists, basically, and people from a wide variety of disciplines. Some of which got really amazingly large numbers of views using animation, using really a wide variety of disciplines. So as Sophie Dint was saying earlier, there are a new generation of theatre makers who want to experiment with this format. And one of the best things for me that came out of World Opera Day event and Nicholas's imposition of Beethoven on all of us was the short animation, 15 minutes. 15 minutes, key time, as you know, concentration span, version of Fidelio for animation, which we commissioned, and this is opera in a new form, and there's space for that too, and it certainly speaks to my kids.
So I think that's an interesting point. Kimberly, do you think that you and your colleagues, they feel equipped to sing for a camera, perform in front of a camera? As you said before, you draw a lot of energy and your work, your artistic work, from having an audience in front of you. So is that something part of the training you had? Is there training for that that's happening?
Well, in my education, I never had a camera which I had to interact with. I was filmed from the distance, but never had this interaction. But I would say every open singer should be able to, when we have a rehearsal of 6 weeks for a whole opera, and there's a camera team who shows us to sing in a certain angle to the camera. So I think we can be re-educated and make the best of it afterwards.
Are there any more questions or comments?
I have a comment, Alexandra. Do you want to hear from me?
Yes, we can hear you.
First of all, I want to say thank you, Alexandra, for your absolutely expert moderation of this fascinating session. And then I want to thank all the contributors for their honest and enlightening and nuanced responses. Let's be honest. During these last months, digital has been a lifeline for our business. And we've had a very fast and steep learning curve in it. None of us wanted to replace the energy of a live performance, but I think we have to be realistic and realize that it's not going to go away. We need to find a way of living with it and making it work for us. And I think that Jens's talking about the digital foyer is a really good example of how you at Deutsche Oper am Rhein have said, okay, this is here, we're going to make something of it. And I think those opera companies who grab fate by the throat and force digital to do their means are the ones who are going to come out of this mess intact rather than destroyed. I am very encouraged by what Oliver says about his open-mindedness of working, and I think he makes a terribly good point that to be involved at an earlier stage would make his approach less last minute and you know, a bit like all those terrible performances we used to complain about in the theatre, where people arrived a day and a half before the performance and said hello to each other and then weren't quite sure whether they were talking to Marullo or Ceprano on stage if they were Rigoletto. I'm very interested that my previous conversation on this subject with Ilaria Lancino, she was completely adamant that the only thing that mattered was the live performance. She was completely uninterested in anything else. And although I wouldn't say she was St. Paul falling from the horse on the road to Damascus, she has shown in this conversation a considerable and very clever open-mindedness about it. She's retained her belief in the energy of the room, and I think in the catharsis of the live experience, while becoming aware of what else it can do for you. Most of us, like you, Kimberly, I have to say, watch these things from a pretty crappy computer. I don't have a big screen in my room, and a bit like you, but for different reasons, I watch it for professional reasons. I want to discover something which I otherwise wouldn't have. I actually want to hear a good young singer, and I might be one of Luke's people who only listen for the length of an aria or two, because that's my way of finding out what you like. But I think where you're so true is that it will become part of the technique and armory of the artists of tomorrow. Whether you be a singer or a director or musician, to master this medium. And the future is, whether you're head of marketing and communications or an artist or even a managing director, the future is going to be how we make the two work for and help each other without detracting from them, without trivializing, which is the great danger of our digital age, let's face it. How do we, in a way, command them so that they work to give as many people as possible a taste of the real experience, which makes them want more?
Thank you very much, Nicholas, for your comment and thoughts, and also for summarizing our discussion here. I would like to thank very much the Opera Europa team to helping us with the setup here and with the technical support of our colleagues here at the Deutsche Oper am Rhein. Thank you, it worked really well. It was for us also first time that we set up a little studio here for broadcasting something via Zoom. So that's worked really well, and we are going to leave it because we probably use it again very soon. So thank you very much for your attention, for your contributions, and I would like to now recommend to watch the production of the Kaiser von Atlantis online. Maybe go and get a cup of tea or a glass of wine, and then sit down and watch the performance, which is about an hour, bit over an hour. And you can watch Kimberly and Ilaria's production in this filming from OTB Berlin. Have fun, enjoy, and also watch the little video clips from our marketing department. So thank you very much for joining us in Düsseldorf, and I'm looking forward to more sessions tomorrow on day 3.
May I just add, Alexandra, about tomorrow's sessions and also to your recommendation for your wonderful Kaiser von Atlantis. Congratulations to all involved. May I also say that tomorrow morning at 10:30, the first session will be a succession of 6 little presentations of projects which are hybrid projects. One of them even involves, as one of the collaborators, Ilaria Lanzino. But the idea of all of them is that they are versions of operas or newly commissioned work made for the conditions of our time. And they start at 10:30, and for an hour and a quarter, you get the chance of looking at 6 of them before our next debate happens. So let me commend that to all of you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, and goodbye. See you.
Thank you, everyone. So just as a reminder, it's the same link to find us tomorrow morning at 10:30.